From the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, this is Carolina Week.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us for the January 24th edition of Carolina Week. I'm Bridget Williams.
And I'm Brooke Baldwin. We're proud to be bringing you coverage of Carolina news and events.
Citizens and students want to know why UNC trusted a convicted felon. Carolina Week's Holly Hedrick looks into what the university considers a position of trust.
Police say that on December 26th at Ridge Haven Townhomes in Carrboro, Dwayne Edwards sexually assaulted a woman, and that 3 days later at the Villages Apartments, he raped another woman. Edwards served jail time in Illinois in 1998 for burglary and larceny. Before police arrested him for the December attacks, Edwards was employed at UNC. He held 3 different university jobs, and yet no one knew about his criminal record. Human Resources Director Drake Maynard told Carolina Week that a criminal conviction check was not done on Edwards, but he says his department would have run a check if someone had asked.
It's the responsibility of the department to look at its positions and say to us, this is a position of trust.
What if they don't do that?
Then a criminal conviction check doesn't get done.
The university defines a position of trust as housekeeping, dealing with money, or children. Edwards worked at Student Health Services, the registrar's office, and was trained to start working nights at Davis Library. His employment at Davis concerns senior Megan Yanner.
I'm coming here by myself right now, and it's like 12:30, and I feel that that's a position of trust. These people need to be, safe.
Sophomore Caroline Pyle says she feels vulnerable and UNC should take action.
I think that it doesn't take that long for them to run a background check and that they should have somebody who does that on all the employees.
Maynard agrees the university should intensify its efforts to find out if potential employees have criminal records, but UNC has made no moves yet. In Chapel Hill, I'm Holly Hedrick, Carolina Week.
Carrboro police have charged Edwards with 33 felonies, and the investigation is still underway.
News about sexual assaults is always frightening. It leaves many women feeling vulnerable. But the Orange County Rape Crisis Center says there are things women can do to help protect themselves. The Rape Crisis Center gives these tips for preventing sexual assault. They say you should avoid walking alone and lock your doors and windows. Taking these precautions can help secure your environment. And act confident. Attackers look for unsuspecting, easily intimidated, and vulnerable targets. And they also say you should trust your instincts. If a situation feels uncomfortable, leave it. And finally, try to resist the assault. Most assailants expect their victims to be helpless, so resisting by yelling may confuse or intimidate the attacker. The Orange County Rape Crisis Center offers free information pamphlets for preventing and dealing with sexual assault. If you need help, you can call the center's 24-hour crisis line at 967-7273 or 1-800-616-3696. The recent events have some students and faculty wondering exactly where to draw the line between the right to privacy and a right to safety. In today's Speak Out segment, we asked members of the Carolina community whether or not background checks should be mandatory for all university employees.
It's just if someone is going to be in contact and have access to information about students, and they need to make sure that they have their backgrounds cleared.
I think that the university ought to have background checks. If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't have a problem with that, and considering the sensitive material that certain university employees have access to, background checks are definitely a necessary component of their application.
I don't feel like it's an invasion of privacy. I think if you're going to apply for a job, then you need to understand, the requirements of the job, and if the requirement is you have to go through a background check, I think it's understandable. Especially dealing with such a large campus and just a variety of students, I don't think you can take any chances.
And it becomes a question of balancing privacy and the rights there too with actually potential safety issues. And it's just a very difficult subject.
Well, I feel that it should be more extensive, being that they have direct access to students. We come in contact with them every day, and I don't feel that we should be under any kind of danger.
Our sample of opinions is in no way scientific and shouldn't be taken as a reflection of widespread opinions on campus.
It's only the beginning of the semester, but some UNC students are already preparing for the end. Seniors have until February 19th to drop a class or declare it pass-fail. But first, they need to make sure they have enough credit hours to graduate. Graduating seniors should see an advisor in Steele Building or access Student Central on the UNC website to make sure they've met all graduation requirements. Seniors must also file a degree application form by February 9th for commencement in May. Senior Allison Ford says she's ready to graduate.
I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've gotten everything taken care of. I've talked to the people in charge, and I just filed my application for a degree. So I should have everything done so far.
Seniors shouldn't forget that they also have to pass the swim test to graduate. Tests will be offered in March and April.
Well, these days, the Student Recreation Center is full of people who made New Year's resolutions or people who just want to get ready for spring break. The busiest time is from about 3 to 10 p.m. every weekday when hundreds of UNC students and faculty work out in this facility. Because of the crunch, some people have to sign up to use machines hours ahead of time. UNC junior Allison Strong goes to a cycling class because that way she can get on a bike without having to wait.
And stuff, people are like, wanting to work out more and stuff like that. And it gets kind of frustrating because if you think about it, there's 24,000 undergrads and we're all using just this one facility.
SRC staffers say the New Year's rush should last only a little while, but for those who don't like crowds, the SRC's aerobics classes are good substitutes, as are running and walking outside.
Buying textbooks has become a major expense on college campuses.
Learn just how much money it takes to fill your book bag each semester and what you can do to cut the cost when Carolina Week continues.
My favorite place to study late at night is downstairs in the undergraduate library. And in the front corner, underneath the reference desk, there's this broken-in armchair. It's comfortable enough to study in, but the springs stick out just enough to keep you from getting too comfy. No one knows the real Carolina like a student.
As crime rises across the nation, some Triangle residents are coming up with new plans to tackle crime in their own communities. Carolina Week's Christy Fair shows us how one Raleigh landlord is keeping his eye on things.
He never knew it would be such a big investment of his resources and his time. Crime grows with this Southeast Raleigh community, and that's what made Tuck decide to take a more hands-on approach.
I didn't want the typical slumlord label. So if I can't make a difference and do it the way I want to do it, then I'm in the wrong business.
He started stepping up security, spending the night in the building, and then installing video cameras to monitor the activity on the street.
Even before and after the lights go out, Gary Tuck is keeping watch.
But not everyone likes what Tuck is doing. Pamela Anderson lives across the street, and the cameras point right at her house. She says it's an invasion of privacy.
He has created more friction in the neighborhood that he's caused solution.
But others think cameras are a good idea.
Ever since he's been putting cameras around and been police is like out there, it ain't been too bad.
Tuck says he and his cameras won't go away until the crime does. Cameras may be focused on crime, but residents say they want to be in the picture as well. In Raleigh, I'm Christy Fair, Carolina Week.
Tuck says the cameras are working and crime is down.
The new president continues to put together his administration after being sworn in as the 43rd Commander-in-Chief this last Saturday. Although D.C. streets were lined with many George W. Bush supporters, protesters were also present at the inaugural parade. Demonstrations were held in other parts of the country as well, including Florida, the site of great election controversy this year. Bush's first action as president was to cut funding to countries that offer abortion services and family planning. The decision was announced on the anniversary of the Roe v. Wade case.
After this weekend, the marching Tar Heels have now marched to the beat of an inaugural drummer in our nation's capital. This weekend, as George W. Bush was sworn in as president, UNC band members were warming up for the parade and from the cold. Band members found out through email during the holidays that they'd been invited to march in one of the nation's most prestigious events, the presidential inauguration. Band members say they were excited to be marching despite the crowds and TV cameras all around.
Playing there, and try not to think of it like everyone who's watching you. Then later on, you get to say, "Wow, I actually did that." It's a pretty great feeling after that.
The Marching Tar Heels were among 36 public bands to be invited to the parade, and they were the sole representative from North Carolina.
Anytime a new semester begins, textbooks are in high demand. But books don't come cheap. As Carolina Week's Nicole Brusick tells us, where you can shop can make a difference.
After hearing that sound, most Carolina students find themselves hundreds of dollars poorer. Tell me how much you spent on textbooks this semester.
Potentially, it's about $100 a book, like $400.
About $200, I think.
Textbooks range from about $10 up to more than $100 for the science courses such as biology and chemistry. An average student will spend between $500 and $800 a year on books alone. For example, let's say you took 3 classes this semester, an economics course, an anatomy course, and a chemistry course. Your anatomy book would run you about $78. Your chemistry book would run you about $99, and your economics book would be another $100. Altogether, for only 3 classes, you'd be paying over $300. But if you bought your books used, you would save about $60. Used textbooks are sold at both the on-campus student store and off-campus bookstores, such as Ram's Book and Supply. We wanted to know where students got the best price. I found this anatomy book selling for $83 on campus. It's only $78 off campus. This econ book is also about $5 cheaper purchased off campus. However, buying from student stores helps out your fellow students.
It's state law that all monies earned by the store has to go to the scholarship program of the university. So if the student store makes a profit, we turn that profit over to the scholarship program.
Last year, the bookstore funded more than $1 million in scholarships. So some of the extra money you spend on campus could wind up back in your pockets. In Chapel Hill, I'm Nicole Brusick, Carolina Week.
We want to remind you that February 19th is the last day to get a refund on books for classes you've dropped.
The latest photography exhibition at the North Carolina Museum of Art is off to a successful start, and its organizers ask viewers to check reality at the door. More than 4,000 people visited the exhibition called Is Seeing Believing in its opening week. From a dog with a guitar to a human coat rack, the photos blur the line between what's real, what's surreal, and what's not real at all. The exhibition features 30 large format photographs from some of the leading names in contemporary photography. Is Seeing Believing runs until April, and admission is free.
Students for Economic Justice, also known as SEJ, are protesting what the group says are serious labor violations being made in factories affiliated with Nike. The students are trying to bring attention to labor problems at a Nike factory in Mexico. SEJ wants UNC to get involved with this issue because the school sells and uses lots of Nike products. Chancellor James Measer has already sent a letter to Nike about the problem, but SEJ wants him to do more. Alana Glazer says the group wants Chancellor Measer to contact Nike again, and this time demand that Nike change things at the factory.
Big name, and people like to wear our t-shirts and stuff like that. We want him to use that power to call Nike, to influence them, to go down to the area, send a representative or two, to talk with the folks that run that factory.
SEJ members chose the Old Well as their protest spot because it can be seen from Chancellor Measer's office.
Well, can you believe it? This time last year, we were digging out for nearly 2 feet of snow.
But not this year. A dose of sunshine and warm weather has students thinking it's spring. Carolina Week's Kelly Mahoney is up next to tell us how long this mini heat wave will last.
What would you do if your mother asked you? So class, tell me, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Oh, that's right.
Yes, Molly?
I want to be a supermodel when I grow up.
How about you, Josh?
I want to be a cowboy when I grow up.
Well, doesn't anybody want to be a designated driver when they grow up?
A what? Designated. I don't know.
Like
I don't know what that is.
Driver?
You heard of that?
The Tar Heels, Kelly, how was the weather this week? Been pretty warm?
Yeah, it hasn't been bad. For the beginning of the semester, we're starting out pretty nice, almost like springtime actually, and I'll be back with your forecast in just a little bit. But for your weekly dose of some weather wisdom, I want to know if you can identify the cloud type shown below. Is it A, a cirrostratus cloud, B, lenticular, C, mammatus, or D, are these things turkey towers? Save that image in your mind, and I'll get back to you with the answer after your forecast. But first, let's take a look at what's been going on outside around campus. You can see some students are experiencing some seasonal confusion. We have a mix of short sleeves and ski jackets, as it looks almost like springtime were it not for those bare trees in the background. So is this warm weather going to stick around? We'll find out in the forecast in just a second. But yeah, like we said before, keep in mind that this time last year we were digging out from almost 2 feet of snow. And if you want to see a little snow comparison for this winter and last, by January 25th of last year, we have had 25.5 inches of snow, whereas this year we've seen just over 2 inches. Normal for this time of year is still about 3, so maybe we're trying to equalize from last year. We'll have to find out as the winter continues. But if we take a look at what the weather's doing right now, no snow in the forecast whatsoever. In fact, warmer temperatures are going to be coming as a low lifts off the coast and a dome of high pressure builds in behind it, giving us more sunny skies and warmer temperatures. So if we take a look at your Carolina Week 4-day forecast, you see these temperatures be put in place as 49 degrees. Tops off your Friday. Saturday gets warmer with 56. It actually might top that and hit around 60. Sunday cools down a little bit, and Monday we continue to see that warming trend with about 53 degrees. Now if you're headed out to the beach, it looks even better there. 60 degrees on Saturday and a still mild 57 on Sunday. Now out in the mountains, we do see the chance for a minor rain snow event just Saturday morning. Otherwise the weekend looks great. Actually 49 degrees on Sunday out in Asheville. So if you're thinking about going skiing, it looks like a pretty nice weekend for that too, because North Carolina does have a lot of trails open. Appalachian checking in with 9, Hawks Nest with 10, and Sugar Mountain has got 20 trails up and running for any skiers that want to give it a shot. So, getting back to the weather question though, I don't know if you remember the picture, but can you guess what those clouds are called?
Turkey Tower sounds fun.
Turkey Towers is fun. Maybe that's why we do call it that. The answer is D. Those things are called turkey towers. That's a wacky name for some clouds. It really is, but not the scientific name, but it is the one we use, so it's fun.
Great. Thanks, Kelly.
No problem. Well, the Tar Heels tried to exert an ACC conference dominance against Big 12 conference in women's basketball.
And we'll profile the floor general of one of the top men's basketball teams in the country. Carolina Week's Devin Biggines is up next with sports.
What could you do with a free hour of your day?
Take a jog, wash your car, bake a cake, or watch TV.
Ever thought about giving blood? It only takes an hour. It saved my life. Someday it may save yours.
A single pint of blood can save 3 lives. Be a hero. Give blood.
The second floor of Davis is where students go to pseudo-study. No real studying occurs here. Girls sit in the cushy chairs to scope out guys as they come up the stairs. I've never witnessed the exam break streaking that occurs there, but I'd like to see it before I graduate. No one knows the real Carolina like a student. Carolina Week, the Student News Show.
Devin, the men's hoops are just on a roll here.
How many is it that we've won by now?
They've won 12 in a row, and they haven't lost since the first week of December.
Wow.
The men's basketball team is living up to its preseason hype and is currently ranked 5th in the country. One of the main reasons for the Heels' success is the stellar play of 2 football players. One of those players is Ronald Curry.
The floor director on the football field is the quarterback, and on the basketball court, it's the point guard. Both of these demanding positions for the Heels are played by one man, Ronald Curry. One of the biggest question marks for the Heels this season was the point guard position. But now that Ronald Curry has stepped up and taken over, the Heels are ranked as one of the top teams in the country. Curry says both simply and in detail how he helps the Heels run.
Just being a point guard, basically running the team, getting us in certain sets, playing good defense, setting the tempo, getting the ball down low and hitting open shots.
When the point guard is playing well, everyone's play is elevated because each member of the team is able to concentrate on what he can do once the point guard sets the play.
He helps it a lot. I don't have to really worry about any ball duties, or I don't have to just concentrate on a lot of things but my position, because I know that Ronald's going to handle the point guard position and get the ball up the court.
I think the difference now is that we know what we're going to get from the point guard spot. For Ron, he's a seasoned veteran. He makes the big plays, he makes the smart passes, and we all know what Ron's going to do.
Curry didn't join the basketball team until late December after football season, during which he led the Heels to a winning record. He says that there are a few things that he was able to transfer from the gridiron to the court.
Just basically mental toughness. We struggle a lot during the football season, and when we get in a certain situation, I know that that situation can never be too tough, and we can always overcome, and just let the guys know that we can do this. Just being a leader, a vocal leader, and just keeping the team together.
Coming into the year, the Heels were expected to be a top 5 team, provided they found an answer to the point guard question. Curry has been an answer and an exclamation point, and the Tar Heel fans are starting to think national title.
The Heels have a busy week ahead playing Virginia, State, and then arch rival Duke. When the Big 12 brought its women's basketball teams to the Triangle this weekend, the ladies from the Midwest meant business. Early Sunday, the ACC Big 12 Challenge matched Iowa State against NC State, with Iowa State pulling out a 71-64 victory. Carolina was looking for a different outcome as it hosted number 13 Oklahoma Sooners. Sooners taking an early lead as the game's leading scorer, Lanisha Caulfield, picture here, gets an easy 2. On the other end, Juana Brown dishes it to center Candace Sutton, who uses the backboard to make the shot. The Oklahoma defense holds both Juana and Coretta Brown, each to a combined 10 of 34 shooting, as the Sooners take the 94-77 win. UNC head coach Sylvia Hatchell says playing a top 20 team out of conference opponent is just like going up against a top ACC team.
It's a breather, because of the way the conference is.
It's run at an ACC team title, and the first few matches of the year are indoors. Tar Heels begin the season with a straight sets victory against Richmond. Carolina takes the doubles point and all 6 singles matches to win 7-0. UNC's Marlene Mahia is ranked 11th by the Intercollegiate Tennis Association. She led the way by taking the #1 singles match 6-2 and 6-1 against the Spiders' Jody Canoyer. The Tar Heels continue the season by hosting UNC Greensboro and then Kentucky in the upcoming weeks, and both the men and women hope to move outdoors soon, and that means that the spring sports season is almost here. Players in the men's lacrosse team know that even though games might not start for another few weeks, 2 of the keys to a successful season are off-season workouts and practice. Most spring teams at Carolina practice in some way or another year-round, with most teams starting to play in early February. The men's lacrosse team kicks off its season February 18th against Fairfield in Chapel Hill. Well, for spring sports starting up in the next month, it should be pretty exciting up until May.
I'm looking forward to it.
Sounds great. Thanks, Devin.
Thanks, Devin.
One of UNC's most beloved professors and his famous red pen are no longer part of the Carolina community.
Family and friends share their memories of the man who was the inspiration for the comic strip Shoe right after this break.
Center, may I help you?
The Women's Center is a nonprofit agency that has served as a meeting place for women in the Triangle since 1979, making it one of the oldest freestanding women's centers in the country. The mission of the Women's Center is to provide a supportive community where all women can inspire each other to grow, both personally and professionally.
I was going through a crisis at home, and I contacted Helpline, and they referred me directly to the Women's Center.
I think the Women's Center is really important for the community because it offers so many different kinds of resources, and if we don't have the resource here, we can find an avenue or a way for women to find the answers that they need.
It is inspiring. It's so exciting to be a part of something that really matters and really changes things.
You can support the Women's Center through membership or by sending a contribution to the Women's Center, 210 Henderson Street, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27514.
The Ronald McDonald House is a nonprofit organization that provides a home away from home for families of children being treated at UNC hospitals. Since opening in 1988, the house has welcomed more than 1,000 families each year to stay at this safe haven. The house relies heavily on community support. How can you help? Become a volunteer. Help the house that love built. The Ronald McDonald House, the house with a heart.
The man who inspired the late Jeff McNelly's cartoon character, Shoe, died in December and left behind a lot of laughs and fond memories.
UNC-Chapel Hill journalism professor Jim Shoemaker, or Shoe, was so much to so many. This is what just a few of his friends and former students had to say about him.
We'd sit together in a faculty meeting, and he would do crossword puzzles and I'd correct papers where we sat together. And at the last faculty meeting, I felt so alone because he wasn't there.
He was the archetypal crotchety, you know, hard as nails, old news guy, and that's what I like. I mean, that's really important to me that I got to, you know, learn from somebody who was like that.
I was the summer sports editor at the Daily Tar Heel, and as soon as I walk back to my computer, he walks back and sits a copy of that day's paper on my desk with red ink on the front of it with the mistake marked on it that had something to do with the sports story that I had nothing to do with, and smiled, and I was really surprised that he knew who I was.
My favorite memory of Jim Shoemaker is the year that he had to dress up as a mouse, or maybe it was a rat, as a fundraiser for the Society of Professional Journalists student chapter, but he was a very good sport about it.
He just had a sense of humor that always made me laugh. Even if you didn't get a good grade on your writing story, he still had something funny to say. So his humor is something I'll remember, I think.
Jim Shoemaker died December 19th. A memorial service in honor of Shoemaker will be held on February 1st at 4 p.m. in Carroll Hall Auditorium. Speakers will include his son Carl Shoemaker, friends, and former students.
Professor Shoe sounded like a great man. I wish I could have had him as a professor.
Yeah, doing the story, it was almost like I felt like I'd had him as a teacher.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thank you for joining us, and be sure to come back next week. Until then, have a good night and a good week.
Good night.
If you have a story idea, contact Carolina Week at 843-8292. You can also visit us online at ibiblio.org/CW. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNC-CH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina, 27599.